Nelms, and I have a presentation that's not working. I am the Director of Learning and Development at Mailchimp, and
you have technical problems already.
I'm having technical problems. All right, good. All right, more business. Okay. And Mailchimp's all-in-one marketing platform is about democratizing marketing capabilities for small and medium-sized businesses. We are based out of Atlanta, so you'll hear me say y'all a good bit. Forgive me for that. So today, like Jim said, I'm going to share with you a bit about how we have tackled the challenge of scaling our leadership development programs in a hyper-growth and culturally rich environment through activating the leaders that we're training in our programs. And here's what I want to cover as we talk today. First of all, I'm going to set up the challenge. When did we first encounter the need to really think creatively about how we scale developing these skills across the organization? Then I'll walk through kind of how we're approaching the solution, and then finally, I'll bring it back to the outcome that we're striving for next. So the challenge of scaling impact. I'm going to take you on a little journey back in time. So about 5 years ago, we first established our leadership development program at Mailchimp in collaboration with Emory University business school professors. So we had this kind of crackerjack team of business thought leaders come together and help us define a curriculum that we needed to scale our culture at Mailchimp. We were also about 250 folks. Mailchimp is a very kind of democratically leaning culture, and so we wanted to make sure that everyone at Mailchimp had the opportunity, I mean democratic in a non-political sense, everyone at Mailchimp had the opportunity to develop as a leader. So when we first established our leadership development program, we made the commitment that every employee would have the chance to go through. But this program was developed and delivered by these Emory facilitators. So we quickly ran into the challenge of scale. So at that point, as we started to hire more and more rapidly, as we started to get to 200, 300, 350, 400, 450 employees, we decided we needed to go ahead and bring someone in-house. So we hired someone full-time to focus on delivering these programs, and then we also restructured the program. We kind of reevaluated the content, we tightened it up a bit, and that brings us to last year, where we were still hiring at about 275 employees a year. And we were really proud of the fact that we were able to get 180 Mailchimp employees through our program. But we were still running a deficit of 30%. So as we were facing this challenge, we also realized that the mandate was greater than ever around our leadership skill development, because we did a needs assessment. My team did a needs assessment around what are the current skills needed to scale Mailchimp. So at this point we're around 700, 750 employees. So we had grown significantly since we first built the curriculum. The way we were doing business had changed significantly. Our strategic perspective had shifted. A lot had changed about the organization. So we did a needs assessment, and we arrived at these 8 different behaviors that were critical for success at Mailchimp. They go from customer empathy and product knowledge to data-driven and strategic thinking, building and using social capital, and then converting change into opportunity. And these behaviors we know are critical for every Mailchimp employee to have in order for us to be successful in our, we call them big BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals as a business. And then layer on top of that, for people who are responsible for team performance, we have business acumen. So that's not only understanding general business principles, but also understanding Mailchimp's business model and how we make money and then contributing to that. Change management, so kind of leveraging that resilience piece and then actually leading your teams through change. And then inclusivity. And this is really important for us because we want to take that, we want to make sure that we're taking the diverse teams that we're building and we're actually creating opportunity for everyone to learn their voice. So here we are at the end of last year, and we have decent progress around getting folks through our leadership development programs, but still falling behind at a quick pace. And we have a clear mandate around what we need folks to learn. And the thing I want to emphasize as I talk about these strategic behaviors is that this is not about high potential or top talent behavior. This is everyone at the company. We know that everyone at Mailchimp needs to be working and thinking in this way for us to be successful. So we have very high expectations, and we want to make sure we're empowering everyone at the company. But obviously, our current methods will not support our mandate. So we asked ourselves, how might we get these strategic behaviors into the business by finding and engaging the right partners on the ground? And that's where I want to spend the rest of the time today. All right, so our solution, partnering strategically. Okay, so we started thinking, if we can't really at scale get 100% of Mailchimp employees through our programs, what is the minimum number? Let's start creating some boundaries around how we might kind of think about who needs to be in the room and how many folks we need to do at scale. So we started with 10%, and I like to think of this as our committed. This is our baseline. These are the people we need to have boots on the ground, raving fans of what we're teaching, and who are able to kind of evangelize and carry that forward to their teammates, to their direct reports, to their colleagues across functions. And I want to share a little bit about how we got at this number. I'm going to kind of dip into some social science work that has been done around how movements start. So we're going to kind of move outside of business for a minute and look at how movements start. So what we know from a look at the spread of information in communities, especially communities where people are kind of open, undecided, is that once you hit that 10% of a population where you have people who are really convicted and engaged around an idea, they are able to rapidly and exponentially engage the rest of the population. So those ideas are going to spread like wildfire. We see this in things like the Arab Spring in Egypt and in other movements where feels like it goes from nothing to everything. And that's when you hit that 10%. And what was exciting about this is Mailchimp is a very close network. Information spreads quickly, for better or worse. Folks are really connected, people move, there's a lot of mobility throughout the organization, so that's an opportunity for us to leverage those relationships. We also know that people are really hungry for what it means and what you need to do to be successful at the organization. They're hungry for answers and they're open to exploring those. So we have an open-minded but closed network, so that's an opportunity for us to leverage that if we can hit that 10%. Okay, so that's the minimum we need around our committed. But what about we know that not everyone who goes through our programs is going to turn around and be a committed and engaged and excited partner for us. They'll be excited about what they learn, but they want to go back to their day jobs, and they won't necessarily want to take us up on the offer to continue engagement. So what's the top end? The top end is 40%. And let me go back, for both the 10% and the 40%, we're thinking about this on a departmental level, not necessarily an organizational level. So if we think about, we have engineering, we have marketing, we have design, we're looking for 10% of every department to be engaged with us as partners, and our goal is for 40% of every department to go through our programs. So how do we get this number? Well, this is what we know from the law, the diffusion of innovations. We know that this gap between early adopters and early majority is an incredibly difficult gap to bridge. But if you can do that, that's when you really get momentum behind your new technology. So how can we think about engaging on the community level to bridge that gap and get to that 40%, hoping that we can capture the 10% in order to really move forward the learnings and the strategic behaviors? So we have, these are our KPIs now. We're looking at, we actually have a spreadsheet where we track everyone who's been through our program, what saturation rate we have in a department, and then we look at who we're targeting to engage as alumni and ambassadors, and looking to have 10% representation across the board. Okay, so we know kind of the numbers, but then that, and the kind of departmental level, but who actually are these people? What do our right partners look like? And so as I mentioned before, these skills are not just for top talent. These skills are not just for high posts. These skills are for everyone at the company. So we knew we needed to kind of lead the conversation when we're helping managers and individuals determine whether it's the right time for them to go through the program, whether they're ready to work with us in this project. So we came up with Readiness Profiles. I'm going to share those with you now. At this point, we have two different programs. We have a program for individual contributors And we have a program for people leaders, so that might include people who are people managers or technical leads. So I'm going to share both of those profiles with you. So for core, which is for our individual contributors, we outlined 5 general areas of what readiness might look like if you're going to be going through a program. And we kind of approach this like a job description. So we're asking you to take on some additional responsibilities eventually, and how you're leading and how you're working day to day. So that's how we approach developing this profile. So this is, you can read it for yourself, but generally it's actively engage with the customer, it's espousing our core values, and really, this is an important piece. Have you made identifiable progress in your professional and personal development? And so like Jim and others were talking about earlier, this is not just about us coming to you and saying, we are developed, congratulations, you're developed. This is about actually a partnership and you moving forward where you want to go professionally. And we can kind of tag in and help you make sure you're going in the right direction. So for lead, it's slightly different because these are folks who are farther along in their careers, who might have a broader span of influence. And so here we have an espousal or modeling of the strategic behaviors. We have a proven ability to already drive performance on your teams, and then a kind of a really great tactical acumen. But there's one other piece that I want to layer on top of this for you that's really critical to the conversation today. Are you ready to take additional responsibility in terms of mentorship, in terms of leadership and influence, outside of your own role, as well as outside of your team? So beyond your team, beyond your own function, are you ready to mentor? This piece is really important both for the individual, saying, yes, I'm ready to do that, I'm interested in doing that, and for the manager saying, yes, I empower them to do that, and I'm ready to give them that opportunity. So what we do is we have these profiles out there, and we have a nomination form. We ask the manager to nominate and commit, kind of literally sign and say, I'm empowering and signing my person up for this. We have the participant apply and commit, and then we invite them to join a cohort. So there are a couple things that we get out of this process. The commitment is a big piece of it. Empowerment is a big piece of it. We also get a lot of clarity around goal setting. So we ask them to give specific examples of this profile, and we also ask them to think very clearly around what they want to get out of the program. Another thing that we look to get out of this is the mitigation of bias. So we're looking to kind of keep it from, hey, I really like Melinda, I think she's great, I want to make sure she gets a chance to go through this. We're asking for people to think clearly and specifically around why Melinda might be the right person to go through the program at this time. Okay. So we know how many from each department we want in the room. We know what we want them to look like, how we want them to work. We know how we want them to be empowered. So now they're in the room, we have to do something with them. So in core and lead, I'm not going to share the whole curriculum here. I have it if you want to talk about it, but that's kind of beyond the scope of what I want to talk about here. What I do want to share with you is some of our deltas around what we're seeing in terms of confidence and ability to communicate forward what folks have learned. So for core, at the beginning and the end of the program, we ask them the same questions. We set a benchmark, and then we measure against that in an exit survey. And this is the results that we've seen from core. This actually goes back prior to, this covers that 180 folks that I shared about earlier, and then folks this year who have been under the new process. And what I'm really excited about as I share this with you is, that might be beyond my technical skill set right now. So is this confidence, increasing confidence, a 10% increase in confidence around communicating team culture, communicating organizational culture, a 10% increase in confidence around connection to vision and strategy. So we see an increase in sophistication and understanding around your own work, how it connects into the business, how it connects into the strategy. And then increased sophistication and maturity around professional goal setting. So the idea here is that we give them the language and the confidence so that whenever we ask them to, and as we ask them to, they can go forward and lead others. For lead, this is a newer program, so this data set is a lot smaller. And you'll also see kind of folks come into the program a bit more confident. So the delta at Thurmont necessarily is impressive, but there's kind of focus on performance and this focus around company strategy we're really excited about. We're really excited about driving clarity, the change management piece, how are we communicating, and this ability to understand and communicate things on a holistic level across the business. So as we continue to refine our programs and kind of see these kinds of deltas, we're really excited that we're setting folks up for success in the programs. But as you probably can assume that the programs are just the start of this experience, the start of this process. So let's talk a bit about the outcome. So far we have just kicked off a brand new cohort of lead today. We have 20 folks going through that. And we have about 50 lead alum. We have all in over 400 people who have gone through all of our programming, including the initial original program. And so now that we have this really great foundation in place at the start of the pipeline, we are actually building out the leaders developing leaders part of the pipeline. And so we have established, and we're kicking off with our cohorts right now, an ambassador program for both core and lead. And here are some questions that we've asked ourselves as we built out this program. First of all, what are we actually asking of them? What is the role? Let's get really specific and clear about that, so that they're set up for success. How can we directly support their use of what they've learned? How can we provide them opportunities for exposure as a leader, both formally and informally? And then how can we sweeten the pot, right? How can we make it where it's a personal and professional advantage for them, as well as helping us pay forward the strategic behaviors outside of that classroom? And here is what we're doing with those in response to those questions. First of all, for our ambassadors, they are established partners throughout the organization who are empowered to continue to use what they've learned to influence and lead in their day-to-day. We are asking for a formal commitment, but we are not requiring it. So we're inviting people into this process. We are inviting people into this relationship, but we're looking to make sure it's a true leadership opportunity. And there are a couple of ways we're looking to do that. We are offering a facilitator certification for folks who have gone through, so we will be training them and then activating them as facilitators. It's also a clever way to democratize some of our work too. Sure, you can go ahead and facilitate that for us. We will be piloting impact groups later this year, which are essentially formal roundtables, and our alumni ambassadors will be facilitating and leading those impact groups. They'll be selecting the content, they'll be engaging the participants, we'll be supporting them behind the scenes, but the idea is that they will be seen and understood as the true leaders of those conversations. And we're excited about this because it will also give us the opportunity to knit together our offices. We are based out of Atlanta, but we're growing across the US, and we want to continuously bring together our distributed employees and the whole company. Mentorship opportunities. So we have a formal mentorship program at Mailchimp, and this is an opportunity for us to really plug people directly in and funnel that pipeline right into the mentorship program. So we'll be tapping people directly and prioritizing them as mentors and making sure that that work is visible. Peer coaching, we have done some of this, and we'll be ramping up more kind of a speed dating approach to coaching. So essentially we have our ambassadors sitting in a room, and anyone can come and ask them questions. They can do coaching on demand. We have coaching training, and so we're putting them through that and equipping them. But the idea is to continuously make them visible as leaders. Supported social learning, an ambassador drip campaign is all about kind of behind the scenes, how can we give them job aids so that whenever they're doing their day-to-day work, these learnings and these skills and tools are top of mind. So we have a booklet that they put together in the program, and they will continue to use that. We will also be sending out emails. We're kicking that off with this cohort. We've done that ad hoc on a general basis across the organization, and we'll continue to do that, but then a special stream of emails for our ambassadors to help activate them as leaders. So our goal here, like I said, is for 10% of our departments to be engaged as a partner with us in these behaviors. And we see that as critical to really moving forward the behaviors across the organization beyond what we could possibly reach on our own. And we're really excited about this journey. We have a very kind of, we're fortunate to have a very engaged and interested workforce, but they're also very busy. And so to the extent that we're able to make it worth their while and meet them where they are, we're able to help them be seen as leaders. People are at every level are hungry to lead and hungry to influence. So the extent that we can give them that opportunity and recognize that opportunity, we're excited about our success.